All right, welcome to week 14. This week we're learning about the third constitutional branch of the government, the federal judiciary, which, like the bureaucracy, is supposed to be outside or beyond politics in the sense that judges' interpretations of the law are not supposed to display a clear ideological or political bias. In recent years, however, the nomination process has increasingly become an explicitly ideologically contentious process. The opening story for the chapter discusses a recent Supreme Court decision that highlights one of the more contentious issues surrounding the right of workers to collect dues from work, from the right of unions to collect dues from workers, and the right of workers to refuse to pay such dues. To me, this is a fascinating issue, and I'd be happy to discuss it with you in the forum if anyone is interested or could understand what that muddle that I just did. Briefly, why is it a good idea to have an independent judiciary? Think about the question for a minute and then ask yourself this question. If the law is administered politically, then what would prevent powerful politicians from using the law to destroy their rivals? These sorts of issues are becoming more and more relevant as our politics becomes more and more adversarial. Alexander Hamilton described the judiciary in Federalist Number 78 as the least dangerous branch of government. While Hamilton was no doubt right that Congress and the presidency have the greatest potential to directly infringe upon the liberties of citizens, the federal courts, and in particular the 9 members of the Supreme Court, wield tremendous influence over the shape and scope of our civil liberties. As former president and political scientist Woodrow Wilson once observed, the Supreme Court is a constitutional convention in continuous session. What's the significance of that? So what kinds of people become federal judges? What kinds of cases are brought in federal courts? In other words, what kinds of misbehavior gets you hauled into a federal as opposed to a state court? How do federal judges reach decisions? An important part of what judges are supposed to do is to ensure rule of law and to prevent the law from being used again as a political cudgel by politicians against their opponents. We only have the 2 weekly assignments this week, but again, like last week, as I said, if you haven't started reading the Lewis, additional reading, you probably should consider doing that. That second writing assignment is due next week, and your article assignment is, again, it's a long article, so I would start reading it this week. All right, let's have a great week of work.